Phil Ivey is known for his insane bluffs.
Barry's got a pair of sixes.
And in this video, you're about to see why.
And Phil Ivey said, well, I hope he doesn't have diamonds, and I hope he doesn't have an ace. And I'm going to find out with 16,000.
He doesn't have anything but a flush draw, while Robl has a pair of kings, but the GOAT knows what he's doing.
Andrew's saying, boy, I wish we were online. I could tell if he's bluffing then.
After about a minute of thinking, though, Phil manages to get it through. Robl makes the fold.
Another successful bluff by Phil Ivey.
It's a great bluff, but it's nothing compared to what happens next. Now, we're at the $1 million Poker Stars Shark Cage event, and Faraz Jaka is about to find out what it's like to face the Tiger Woods of poker.
A 9 high flop. Faraz still with the best hand with king high.
Somehow I feel like Phil's still gonna win this one.
He's leading again.
I feel like donk leading should be called something different when Phil does it. Legend lead, baller lead, boss lead.
Faraz calls. The turn card is a 10. Faraz now a 4-1 favorite.
The turn card doesn't change anything for either player, and this hand is at a bit of a stalemate. Phil bets 125k, and Faraz, holding the best hand with only king high, makes the call. Now we go to the river, where things are about to pop off.
It's the queen of clubs. The board is bricked out for Phil.
There's the brick. Now here comes the bomb.
Another big bet, and this time Phil doesn't have it, which means it's a bluff, which means someone's going in the cage.
If Faraz Jaka manages to make this call with just king high, he will be such a boss. Bo and Luke Duke are going away for a long, long time.
Is there any chance he can find this call?
And he's running out of time. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Faraz's hand is dead. That's a fold, and that means he's going to the cage.
Yes, Vanessa, well done.
Jaka gets the bad news.
I'm about to call too.
No, you weren't.
Phil makes it look easy, but every move is calculated. And in this next hand, he takes mind games to a whole new level. This hand is a cruel yet entertaining mix of pure psychological warfare between no-home Jerome and Andrew Feldman. Feldman looks down at a sweet king-queen suited and instantly makes a 2k raise pre-flop. Phil, though, as usual, is completely unfazed and re-raises to 7k with his queen 4.
Feldman played a little bit on his back heels last year, and I'm wondering if maybe Ivey remembers that. You know Ivey remembers that. And maybe Ivey's going to take advantage of that.
I was going to say, Ivey doesn't forget too much. King Queen's not a very good hand to call 3-bet, and he calls. Wow. Well, he's got Phil Ivey dominated, but if he doesn't hit a piece of this flop,
The flop doesn't give either player anything other than a couple backdoor draws.
well, this is the longest pause for a check. I think we're going to see a check. Be pretty strong leading into a 3-better.
Talk about physical tell sometimes. The player takes that long to check. What does that usually mean?
Well, one of two things. He doesn't have anything, or he's got a big hand.
After a long pause, Feldman finally manages to check his hand. Phil swiftly stamps his authority by raising it up once again, but Andrew isn't buying it, and the war's about to begin.
This is actually an interesting scenario here. With this flop, Andrew Feldman could represent a hand, but I can't see him doing anything but folding right now. And King High doesn't feel like it's the best hand here. It is, but it doesn't feel like it.
I mean, you're playing the hand out of position. You're playing the hand out of position against Phil Ivey. I mean, you talk about position. I asked you earlier, how much does position mean? This is evidence, isn't it?
It is very obvious that in all poker, position helps, but in particular when you're playing against the great players. Look at this. Wow.
28,500.
Now this is poker at the next level. Can Ivey outplay him though? Holy moly, I didn't see that coming.
After that re-raise, Phil now finds himself in a tough spot. He's probably thinking that Feldman's raise doesn't really represent many strong hands here. If he had hands like trips or a full house, he'd likely slow play. Overpairs like pocket jacks or kings are also hard to believe since he didn't 3-bet pre-flop. Eventually, he makes the call, and we go to the turn, where Phil Ivey once again proves why, when it comes to poker, he's in a league of his own.
Turn card, and he doesn't.
And now what do you do if you're Feldman?
You know
Ivey
what?
just called
You
your
know what
check
I do?
raise.
Pure and simple. I check and get ready to muck my hand, or I push all in right now.
Check.
Feldman only has 64,000 behind. The pot is 72.
Well, that's
Feldman
why
checks.
stack size, he could shove there and hope that he bluffs Phil Ivey out. I mean, Phil Ivey's completely floating Feldman here.
27,000.
Wow. I swear. I love Phil Ivey. I just love him. This is great.
This is poker at the highest level.
Straight out. Feldman so badly wanted to outplay Ivey. So badly. And Ivey knew it.
He sure did. He sniffed it out. I think part of it had something to do with his re-raise size, too. It was only 17,500.
And Ivey takes it down. Feldman mucks the hand.
That was a fantastic bluff, and he takes down the pot. But in this next hand, he's up against not just one opponent, but two. This hand from the World Series of Poker main event features the well-known and respected Andrew Lichtenberger and poker pro Ryan Fair. Together, they have a combined total of over $22 million in live tournament winnings, but Phil's about to make them look like rookies.
Trey in the big blind, called a raise by Ryan Fair holding 2 deuces, as did the small blind Andrew Lichtenberger with ace-jack, and now we're 3-way to the flop. The flop is queen-jack-8. Lichtenberger hits a pair of jacks.
I hate seeing 2% next to Phil Ivey's name.
Lichtenberger with his 2 jacks has the lead. The 21-year-old from New York, one of the best online players around. He checks.
Middle pair, top kicker, and Lichtenberger says no. It's possible Lichtenberger just wary with Ivey behind him. It happens.
Ivey checked. He missed the flop. Fair checks as well. Turn card is a 10. Lichtenberger still best with his jacks. There is a straight draw out there.
The table is tense, and no one wants to make the first move. All 3 players check the flop, and now there's a straight draw on the board. This is anyone's hand to take down. However, once again, all 3 players check, and we go to the river.
Is a tray of hearts that pairs Ivey, but Lichtenberger earns the check mark.
Lichtenberger and Fair both are poker pros. They should act like it and take a stab at this pot.
With his jacks, he checks again.
Well, it looks like Phil Ivey is saying there's 250,000 chips out there. If no one wants them, I'll take them.
150,000 says, I want it. Fair folds right away.
Now, Ivey trying to bluff his way through 2 marginal hands. He's got 1 out of the way.
Lichtenberger gives up the best hand, and Ivey will take the pot.
The Ivey factor. I think I have my next book.
That was pretty standard stuff for Phil, but this next hand wasn't. In this hand, Phil's facing off against a true legend of the game, Mike the Mouth Matazau. And he looks down to a measly 4-2 offsuit, a hand most players would fold without a second thought, but not Phil Ivey.
And like 5-4. Well, just doesn't want to leave that 1,200 behind. He's caught a little bit of it. It's not an ideal flop for him, but he might see a turn, especially if it's cheap enough.
6,000.
No, I just remember from last year, Ivey seems to have Matazau's number.
Cool.
And I think Ivey's inside his head. I mean, to me, Ivey can win this pot. He can finagle to win this one.
Juice. Check.
Well, both players have a little bit now. Matazau with a pair of 5s, Ivey with a pair of deuces.
Both of them with a 3 for a straight.
20.
And there you go.
And just like that, Phil takes down a legend. But in the next clip, he finds himself up against one of poker's youngest breakthrough stars. It's 2010 and we're in season 6 of high stakes poker with a completely stacked lineup. Phil looks down at poker's worst hand and logically raises it up to 3,000. Everyone calls and the flop comes down 4-9 ace.
Interesting hand here. Phil Ivey raised to 3,000 with 7-deuce offsuit, and there is no 7-deuce bounty as we've had in past seasons on high stakes poker. He just felt like doing it. Now he follows up with a $12,000 bet. Only person who has anything here is Dario with a flush draw.
Maxi. One more.
Put one more in, Dario. I got this big 7-deuce here. I want to make sure I get all the money in the pot there.
Phil teases Minieri, telling him to bet one more, as if he actually has a decent hand. This guy operates on a level that mere mortals like us just can't understand. It's little comments like that that can completely throw you off your game and make you reconsider what your opponent has. The turn brings another ace, and here come the fireworks.
He can continue with his story now, if he wants. Yep. Here comes chapter 3. 30,000, just like he has ace king or ace queen. Dario is capable of doing something here. Does that man look like he's bluffing to you?
That right there is how you play the hammer, and Phil finds himself looking down at the exact same cards in the next hand, but this time against Tom Dwan. We're back at full tilt poker, and Dwan raises it up pre-flop with his 7-5 of clubs. Phil, though, makes a bold re-raise yet again with the worst hand in poker, 7-deuce. Tom makes the call, and we go to the flop.
We're all the same.
9 king jack.
Nothing for either player, so I'd expect a bet here from Phil.
Check.
King, jack, 9, couple of hearts out there. Dwan checks.
When you start firing with a 7-deuce, you know that you're probably going to have to keep bluffing because you're not likely to have a showdownable hand.
11,000.
Now it's a question of whether Tom wants to have a replay.
Phil Ivey bets 11,000 into about a 15,000 chip pot, and that's going to be enough to take it down.
I'm going to bluff Phil one big hand today to make up for what he did to me the last year.
And Phil Ivey showing us all why he is one of the best in the world.
But Ivey's magic didn't stop there. Later that night, he pulled off an absolutely outrageous bluff against Alan Cunningham.
Well, Madison's going to call. That might bring in Ivey. That might bring in Ivey.
What a silly question. Of course it'll bring in Ivey. Here we go, these 3 to the flop.
Madison first to act after this flop. We'll see what happens.
9.
Well, 9-9-6. Once again, a good flop for an overpair.
Phil fires out a 4.5k bet, and without much thought, Alan makes the call. Let's see this turn card.
600. Well, that's the third diamond out there. Neither player with a diamond, but Cunningham doesn't know that.
1,200 to bet. So 12,000.
And Phil Ivey bets 12,000. Now the last hand, Ivey had nothing. And
There's
he
also
checked
some history between these two with aces, of course. We saw Alan Cunningham make an amazing laydown in an earlier series of $1 Million Cash Game.
That was series 2. Now this flop and this turn have a different texture though.
Oh, very
We've
much
got 3
so.
diamonds out there, we've got straight draws out there, and plus a paired board.
Oh, that's a horrible card as well. It just gets worse and worse for Alan Cunningham. Ivey needs to fire again to win this pot. He knows that.
Let me play devil's advocate just for a second, because I'm curious. Do you really think Ivey is betting 12,000 on the turn with 2 pair 9s and 6s? Are you really scared of the 6 on the river?
I think you're probably right here. He's betting a 9, a flush, or nothing.
Yeah, I mean, when he bets 12,000 on the turn after Cunningham calls me, I've either got a 9 there or a flush. The 6 doesn't really change much.
Alan's deep in the tank here. He knows Ivey's raise is bad news. It's representing a full house with a 9 or a 6, or even a flush. Sure, Ivey could have missed a straight draw with a hand like 7-8, but the way he sized his bet makes that unlikely. It's a really well executed bet here by Phil.
Well, we know he can lay him down. Can he make the call too? I think Alan's doing exactly what we've been doing, just going through the hands. I think he's decided to let it go. And this time, Phil Ivey runs Alan Cunningham off the best hand.
This hand has fireworks right from the start. Barry Greenstein instantly makes a bet of 5.5k pre-flop, but Phil Ivey doesn't like it.
Phil Ivey suspects something. Raises Barry. We have another Air Ivey hand. Ivey suspects that Barry was out of line, and he's right. But it looks like Lex, who's got a decent hand, suspects that they're both out of line, and he's right. Look at them, they look like suspects.
You gotta love this commentary. And now, this hand is about to get wild.
Nice play by Lex, 51-6.
How much more are you playing?
I think Phil Ivey's posturing here,
110,
asking Lex how much he has.
140 something? 130, 140 more?
Doesn't want Barry to know he raised him with air. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Phil Ivey just went all in with a 5-deuce offsuit. I don't believe it.
I thought you were just angry at Barry.
I am.
That is one of the great bluffs in the history of high-stakes poker.
It's another Ivey versus Dwan hand here again, and the latter has picked up 6-8, while Ivey looks down to Jack-8. Alan Cunningham wants a part of the action here too, as he limps in with his King-6.
10-10-5, couple of hearts out there. Well, nobody has anything, so whoever bets is going to take this one down, right?
And true to form, looks like Phil's reaching for his chips. Just betting 1,000. Pretty simple percentage play here. 2,500 in there. He figures more often than not I'll pick this up with 1,000 bet.
After the flop, Phil bets 1,000, getting rid of Cunningham and taking his shot at the pot. Tom, though, has other ideas.
Well, Tom Dwan not going to let him do it.
700.
He's going to raise this one up. Even the small pots, they don't go uncontested.
Well, he's floating one here, Phil.
Yes, do not adjust your dial. The cards are correct. 4 clubs. Well, gives Dwan a little bit of a draw. He has a gut shot now. Now, he did check raise on the flop. Pot is 10,600. Can he bet one more time?
This is Tom Dwan. Of course he can bet one more time.
But Ivey's range is, I mean, it's ridiculously wide, isn't it?
It is very wide, but Tom also knows that Phil's quite likely to float one in this spot as well.
$7,300.
He bet 7,300 into a $10,600 pot. And the red chips, those are $1,000 chips. The purples are 100. And the action is on Phil Ivey.
After the turn, Tom fires out a 7.3k bet that should be the end of this hand, but Phil Ivey doesn't often go down without a fight.
I wonder if Phil can float another one, or if he's... No, looks like he's reaching...
21. 21.
And he's raised this up.
Well, this is what confidence can do for you. Gets off to such a strong start, Phil. He's now making great plays.
Now, just a little while ago, Matisow said that there's no way Ivey's bluffing there. Is that why Ivey's bluffing here? To show everybody that he can bluff?
I think everyone in the world knows he can bluff, but I think he just knew his player in this spot. Beautiful play by Phil. Takes that one down without having to have the best hand.
Tom, every time you bet, they just raise you. Every time. How come?
Just read the situation perfectly and picks up a cool 10,000 that he just didn't look like was there for the taking.
I don't like the way they're treating you.
After Dwan's failed attempt to take down the GOAT, now it's Patrick Antonius' turn. This one here gets wild, and the pot grows close to 200k in this hand. Only Ivey and Antonius make it to the flop, holding Ace-4 and King-10 respectively. The flop lands 5-2-10, and Patrick fires out a hefty bet, and Phil quickly calls with his straight draw. The turn brings the 7 of diamonds, and Patrick is now more than a 4-1 favorite to take down this pot, but math doesn't apply to Phil Ivey.
Talking about the most penetrating eyes in poker. Patrick Antonius, Phil Ivey, 2 players I certainly don't want to be playing against.
Well, you went with my first guess.
13,000. Pot is now nearly 31,000. 13,000 over to Ivey.
Well, he's reaching for the chips. He's not going anywhere by the looks of things. Well, looks like he's got something more creative lined up. That looks like 33,000 to me.
33,000.
Well, what is Ivey trying to represent here? Is he trying to represent a small set?
Small set. Maybe 7s and 5s.
Patrick fired another strong bet, but Phil hit back once again, with nothing but a straight draw.
And he's going to call this.
Well, he teased us by picking up 125,000. Just made the call.
Pot is now $84,000.
6.
Well, the 6 diamonds doesn't seem to complete anything. Well, I mean, I guess you could say it completed the 3-4, or maybe, just throw this at you, if Ivey had picked up a diamond draw on the turn.
Yeah,
something like Jack 10 of diamonds.
Exactly. Phil obviously knows now he has to bet to win this pot. It's a pretty scary card for him. He knows that Patrick could have been found with anything on the flop, and then maybe he's fired again with a flush draw. But he does know.
Pot is $83,900. The red chips are 1,000. The purple are 100. The blues are 500. And Phil Ivey's got some black ones behind there, and those are $25,000.
All in. All in.
And Phil Ivey's all in. We haven't seen Phil Ivey make this kind of bluff. Unbelievable.
It's a tough call with just a 10 and a king kicker.
It's $101,000 to call. He overbets the pot. It's exactly the way Phil Ivey would play this if he had a set. Or if he made 2 pair, something like that.
Well, he lays it down. It's a great play by Phil.
And just like that, Phil takes down a $185,000 pot with nothing but air, proving why he's widely regarded as one of the greatest players to ever play the game. But there are some plays that even the great Phil Ivey could never even dream of pulling off. If you want to find out what they are, click this video right here to uncover some of the most high IQ plays ever recorded at the poker table. We'll see you there.